Okay, so I'm going to give you a brief overview of the PhD program and provide you with a few details. And along the way, I'll answer some questions that people had when they filled out the Qualtrics survey registering for this meeting. And then after I'm done answering those questions, if any of y'all have any additional questions that I didn't answer that came up during the presentation, there'll be some time to ask those. So, and I'm recording this in case you have to leave early or something, you can come back and watch it. Okay, so we have about 23 full-time students in our PhD program and 18 core faculty. And then as Dr. Limbers noted, we have 3 tracks. So there's the behavioral neuroscience track, and there's a lot of diversity in the professors that work in the different areas. Behavioral neuroscience especially will range from people looking at substance dependence in both humans and animals, all the way to looking at research questions on a molecular level. We have a social psychology track, and the 3 of us that are on that have overlapping interests in both psychology of religion and in different aspects of positive psychology, ranging from patience to humility to gratitude and forgiveness, as I mentioned before. And then we also have a general experimental psychology track where there's, again, a wide range of topics that we look at, including memory and cognition and sleep and sensation and perception and health. The funding for the PhD program, I talked to Laura, and she mentioned that this year students got about $23,000 per year for the stipend before taxes, and that's divided across a couple of semesters. And then, as Dr. Limbers mentioned, we also apply for stipend enhancements on your behalf if you've got like good numbers or whatever. And those can range from $2,000 to $8,000 per semester. It's not guaranteed, but it's a possibility. So that can be part of your stipend to help pay for things. It's not huge, but I think it's quite competitive. Some people asked about the duration of the program, and we set up the classes so that you can complete your coursework in about 3 years, and the program itself can be completed in 4 years, but many people take 5. If you enter with a master's degree, you'll take between 3 and 4 years to complete. Someone asked a question about whether you're required to get your master's along the way to the PhD, and it's not a requirement, but most people do because it's a good idea to do a thesis. It's just, you know, getting your feet wet designing experiments and studies. So most people take the thesis option on their way to the PhD, so then they get their master's. But that's not a requirement. There's another option where you don't have to get your master's, and certainly you don't need your master's degree to enter the PhD program. And then we have a good record of job placement. As Dr. Weaver mentioned, we're preparing people for jobs in academia, and so 90% of our graduates find an academic position after graduation, whether that's as a postdoc or as a tenure track faculty. But we do have some people who get jobs in industry. As an example, one of my first students now has a job working at a school system in Arizona, and he basically, when he started working in my lab, he's like, "You're doing paper and pencil questionnaires, don't do that." And so he just fully digitized my lab. And so then when he went to this school system, he went in and he digitized them too, and automated a lot of the stuff. And he's like, "I hope they don't figure out that I'm not doing as much work as they think because I've automated everything." I'm like, "No, that's the work." So so there's good placement for our graduates. Another question that a lot of people have asked are, you know, what's the application process like? So the important aspects of the graduation process are, of course, the application, which is online. And so if you go to our webpage, you'll see the link to the graduate school online application. You need to send your transcripts from each college that you've been to, like all of them. Even if you got like dual credit in high school at a college, you need to send that transcript. Your 3 letters of reference, And then normally we have you send your GRE scores, but this year we're waiving it because it's an exceptional year. Laura Sumrall told me that one of the biggest things that you need to do is just to make sure your application's on time. She was telling me, you know, it seems like a silly thing to say, but we don't take late applications. And so that's like one of the things that can cause you to not be able to get in is not getting your application on time. Make sure that your transcripts are sent in, that you have all your references get in on time, and that you pay the application fee. Another common question was people were asking, well, what can make my application competitive? And of course, there's the good numbers that you need. Usually it's a high GPA and high GRE, but again, we're not collecting GRE scores. But the other important thing that you can do is go to the website and look and see the different faculty that are in the different tracks and find the faculty that are in the track that you're interested in and see what research they're doing and find the people who are a good match to your research interests. And then even take it a step further and contact them, send them an email, or at the very least, look up their recent publications. Because one of the main things that determines whether you get in is if the faculty that you're interested in, if they're recruiting someone. So if we're looking and there's someone who's a really good match, who's got similar research interests to us and who has good research experience, and that makes them a really competitive candidate. So rather than trying to apply really broadly and saying that you're interested in a bunch of people, if you're interested in just one or two people, and if you've contacted these people to see if they're actually recruiting people, if you can tailor your application to the people that you're interested in and who are looking for students, that'll make you a more competitive applicant. One of the things I know that I look for is the potential to do research. So in social psychology and in a lot of other fields in psychology as well, the job market has been really tight for a while. So even if someone is looking for a teaching position after graduate school, you still have to have a good number of publications. And so I want to make sure that the people that go through the program that are going through my lab are successful. And so we're looking for people who look like they have the potential to be successful in research, so that you can run those studies, write them up, have all the publications that you need so that you can be successful and get a job. So some of the things that I look for in your vita and in your personal statement are, what kind of research experience has this person had? You know, how are they talking about research? Do their research interests overlap with mine? So if you can give us some information about your experience and your potential, that's also important. And then we're not collecting GRE scores this year, but if you could talk some about, you know, your writing abilities and your quantitative skills, because those are also things that you need in order to successfully conduct the research and write it up and run the analyses and all that. Some additional questions that I saw that I just wanted to cover really quickly, and then I'll open it up for further questions. Some people asked if they should apply to both the PhD and the PsyD programs. And I suppose if you are really interested in, you know, if you can't decide between, oh gosh, I want to be a practitioner and I want to do a PsyD, or, oh, but I could also, you know, I really love social psychology, so maybe I suppose you could, but really my gut feeling is that if I see that someone has done both, then I start to wonder if they're confused. One of the things that I sometimes see in people's letters, their personal statement, is they are looking for a PhD clinical program. And as Dr. Limber said, we unfortunately don't have one of those. And so if you're applying to both, I might start wondering, like, are they trying to find a PhD program in clinical? So if for some reason you do that, you'd want to make sure to explain yourself, I think. But I think it's possible. But yeah, you'd need to make sure that we know that that's not a mistake. Someone asked how important is prior funding and publications. It is not a requirement at all that you already be published or that you have, you know, the NSF Graduate Student Fund, but certainly you'd be a competitive applicant if, you know, if you came in and you're like, oh, I've got a couple publications already, and also I have this grant funding. So if you've got that, by all means, make sure that we see that. But you don't have to have any publications of your own. If you can talk intelligently about research, and if we see that you've got good quantitative potential, and you know, when it comes to social psychology, or that, you know, you've got good experience with different research methods, then that'll still make you a competitive candidate. Some people asked about social events that are sponsored by the graduate school or by Baylor, and so I put up some web links that I'll make sure to send in the email that we send you afterwards, with links to this talk and all that. There's a lot of resources for personal development and for different events, and our students, Josh and Mara, might be able to speak a little bit to maybe some of the events that they've heard about or participated in from the graduate school. Someone asked about changing from another field to neuroscience, and I didn't know if maybe Dr. Ginty had any advice on that, if you'd seen any applicants do that. But certainly that's one of those things I would think, if, you know, if you're changing from another field to psychology or another field to neuroscience, you would want to make sure that you explain what's going on and why it is that you're interested in research and in psychology. Did Dr. Ginty or Josh or Mara, did y'all have anything to add to some of the large amount of information that I've given people so far?
I think everything you said has kind of summed it up and answered some questions that we saw put through before, but we know that you guys may have questions you didn't ask or questions that you want to ask now. And any of us are happy to answer any questions that you guys may have.
And then I had a last link about information for international students. I had a couple people ask about international student funding, and so this website has some links to some different places on at Baylor that provide support, both social support and other types of support for international students. Let me open it up to everybody then. Do you have any additional questions that have come up or that I didn't get to?